Hey guys, and welcome back. So last time we talked about healing resistance, and today we're gonna further this subject. We're gonna take the next step. A main source of resistance is clinging on to the past. We want to remain in the comfortable feeling the past has already given us, and we don't want to give up that comfort for the possibility of future gain. Okay, so the first thing we want to do if we want to go further and achieve our goals is to tinker with the past. So it leaves us alone and it doesn't draw our attention to it, even though we don't need to pay attention to the past and we only need to focus on the present moment and on our plans for the future. So in order to do that, the first thing I want to stress out is that, as Michael Beckwidth, a speaker in the movie The Secret, said, nothing new can come into your life until you appreciate what you already have. And that may sound a bit abstract, but think of this. You have done things in your past, or were forced to do things in your past, that developed some qualities in you. If you didn't have the struggle in your past, you wouldn't have had the opportunity to develop the skills you developed. Now, from those skills stem your greatest accomplishments. You have some accomplishments based on the skills you had to develop, and those are your treasures. So there is something in the present, there is a set of skills you can genuinely look at and appreciate. You just have to really look at what it is that you can appreciate, that you have from your past. And when we cling to the past, this clinging is for a function not yet fulfilled. For example, let's say you had a person in the past who you say treated you wrongly, and you feel that you must be angry on him because you are entitled to being treated fairly, to being treated nicely because you behaved nicely, and yet you weren't treated with fairness and you weren't treated as nice as you treated them. That's just not fair. That's just not right, in your opinion. Okay, so that person didn't fulfill his function in the way you prescribed it to be. So you keep clinging and clinging and clinging and harboring resentment or frustration or anger or God knows what other negative emotion until that person apologizes and fulfills that function. And sometimes, even though he may fulfill that function in the present, you can still harbor resentment and say, well, okay, you're doing things now, but I don't need you to do them now. I needed you to be nice back then, and you weren't. And there is nothing he can do about it. And you keep him trapped, and you keep yourself trapped by doing this. And this is when I want to remind you of some words Neil Donald Walsh, author of Conversations with God, said. And it's a principle that I dearly love, that nobody owes you anything and you don't owe anybody anything. That means you're not entitled to anything from anyone, but neither are they entitled to anything from you. That means if you treat somebody nicely, you are not entitled to being treated nicely. Sure, they may treat you nicely, but it's not a crime if they don't. And likewise, if somebody treats you nicely, you don't necessarily have to treat him as nicely as he did treat you, okay? So if he goes over his head just to please you and to follow your every whim, you don't have to do the same thing, and you don't have to reciprocate in the same manner to him. Because our society is based on this kind of mentality, that because somebody did something for you, you are now obliged to do the same thing in the same measure for him. This is what parents many times use to manipulate their children. I raised you, I brought you up as my own, I gave my heart and soul for you, I worked hard, and I refuse myself this and this and this pleasure, and this is how you treat me? You show me lack of respect, you don't obey me, you don't respect me? Well, they're not entitled to your respect just because they did so and so and so and so. Of course, you may show respect. You may show nobility, of course you may, but that has to be your decision and you are not forced to do that, okay? So you can then let go of the past because there's nothing there for you. There's nothing anything should have done differently for you to feel better, for you to feel more accepted, more special, more safe, or for you to have your pleasures that you wanted, okay? So that brings responsibility back in your hands. This means you cannot be a victim because there is no possibility of you ever being a victim if everything you did was your responsibility. But that also, if you can't blame anybody for anything and if they can't blame you, places all the power in your hands. Not just the responsibility, because responsibility is hard work, baby, but all that power. Well, you do want the power to be able to decide for your own life what you want and what you don't want, and to be able to go for it and achieve it, okay? So you can realize that the past has served its function, and you can realize that there is nothing worth clinging to, and start asking some positive questions. And the first thing you need to do is just take account of the past and just look at it. Don't reject it and see what it looks like. And the first question you could ask to assess the past is, okay, this is the past that is bothering me right now. What action would I want that specific person that bothered me to have done differently in the past? Let's say, for example, somebody said some harsh words to you. You can ask this question: what would I wish that person had done differently? And you can say, I wish he didn't say those harsh words. Okay, you can own that feeling. Yes, you do wish he wouldn't have said that words. And why is that? This brings us to the second question. What would I wish I had felt differently based on what that person would have done differently? So for example, if that person didn't say those harsh words, maybe you would have felt understood. Or maybe it's not about feeling understood, it's just about not feeling misunderstood. You didn't necessarily want to feel understood, you just didn't want to feel blamed unjustly. Okay, and you can own that. You can say, well, I wanted some understanding, or man, I just didn't want to go through that frustration of feeling misunderstood, or any emotion that you feel is upsetting you. After you do that, you can assess the situation even further and ask a question like, okay, what quality was I forced to develop that has helped me ever since I developed it? And this means recognizing that there was a gift for you, there was a quality that has helped you ever since, even though that quality may not have been intentionally developed by you. You were forced into developing it. So it wasn't by your own free will, but you developed that quality nevertheless, and it has served you. After assessing the quality you developed, you can look even further and assess, okay, what are the things I gained by developing that quality and using it ever since? Because that quality, by using it, brought you some things you wouldn't have had otherwise. And you can assess that. And this is your treasure. These are all the things you got because you were forced into behaving a certain way. And after that, you can ask yourself, okay, how can I best heal and how can I best thank that person for having brought to me that quality and having brought to me this treasure of experience that I have acquired by using that quality. And you can go and heal the past, you can go and let go of the past and thank it, because in all truth it did serve you, and it did serve you well. So do that exercise and tell me how it worked for you. Until next time, this is Cătălin signing off. Peace and love.